Death of a Salesman addresses loss of identity and a man's inability to accept change within himself and society. The iconic show is being played over at the Edison Theatre, and our Malik Wilson got a little behind-the-scenes look.
Ladies and gentlemen, the African Company presents.
What makes Death of a Salesman relevant today is the universal American dream, and of course that looks different for everybody, but there's a universal theme of wanting dreams, having a desire to obtain things that sometimes are grand, sometimes are not, but everyone has an individual, unique dream and hope. And so what happens when some of those dreams are deferred? What happens when the expectations of those dreams are put on your children or put in places that limit you from experiencing your full joy and your happiness and limit you from being present, from experiencing the things that are real and rich and pure in your life. So I think that that is something that is timeless and that, you know, can be produced from now until the end of time. Historically, a lot of Black families were not portrayed as the Lomans, and so, you know, there's a production of this on Broadway right now. So what happens when this text is in these bodies on stage? How does the language and the circumstances land differently? And I think that audiences will see and be able to pick up on some of those differences in our production.
In this production, I play Willie Loman, who is you know, the father in the Loman family, and a man who has struggled to reach the American dream, who's done everything he can to make the world better for his sons, and is struggling now as he is, you know, everything is falling apart.
It is a beast of a role. It's a challenging role. It requires an actor to fully commit and carry the burden of the show on their back, and he has done it with such grace and power, and so I know audiences are going to be wowed by his performance.
When I approach the role, I look at what the American dream means to African Americans, right? And at the time of the play, we're talking about African Americans who are probably coming home from World War II, right? So who've been fighting for equal rights and fighting for justice and freedom and equality, right?
We have a cast that is so invested in sharing the story in such an honest and truthful and visceral way. And so we have an amazing cast.
The rest of the season, coming up next in the Black Box, which is around down the hall here from the Edison Theatre in the Hotchner Theatre, is The Light. It's a wonderful two-hander by Loy A. Webb. Following that, we move over to the Burgess Theatre at Coca, where we'll do Dominique Morisseau's Skeleton Crew. And then we move back here to close out the season in May with the musical Yugi.
And you can find all of that information right there on your screen.